I finished my whole December TBR already. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, today we are here with a weekly wrap-up. I normally don't do monthly wrap-ups because I find that if I do a monthly wrap-up, it might take forever to film since sometimes I do read a lot of books and then sometimes I don't read a lot of books, but I prefer weekly wrap-ups because they're shorter videos and it gives me more time to talk about the books, and hopefully that you can learn more about the books and you can hear more about my thoughts and opinions. So the first book that I picked up in the month of December is Christmas Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. I've mentioned her multiple times and numerous times on my channel already that she is one of my favorite romantic comedy authors, but I consider myself to be a very brutally honest reviewer and I won't sugarcoat things when it comes to my reviews because I don't want to lie to my viewers and I don't want to lie to the people that follow me on all my social media channels. So I'll tell you this right now. This book was a very mediocre novel from Sophie Kinsella. It wasn't the worst and it wasn't definitely the best. I did enjoy the story, but at some times I felt that it was very boring. Things were dragging along. It didn't feel like that there was a real cohesive plot to it. It just felt like there was a lot of Christmas mishaps and it was supposed to be this cute story where this girl is just trying to organize Christmas with all her extended family and all her friends, but things just keep going wrong. For example, the turkeys that she ordered didn't arrive because they ran out of turkeys. The Christmas tree is wilting and it's falling apart just in time for Christmas. Lots of people have different opinions on how to celebrate Christmas, so they keep telling her, you know, we should do this and we should do that, and she gets very confused and she gets very annoyed and frustrated because she wants to please everyone. So this is actually the story or a continuing story of the Shopaholic series from Sophie Kinsella, and if you haven't read it yet, I suggest you not to pick up this book simply because Becky is a personality that you learn to grow to. It's not someone that you can just pick up in the middle of the book and you just read and then you can justify her actions. So she is a shopaholic. She buys a lot of things, and I would like to say that she improved over the time of the series where she stops buying things, but obviously the series wouldn't go on if she doesn't continue to spend reckless amounts of money. So I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars because I really enjoyed Becky and Luke's relationship. I find them adorable. I love them as my OTP. They're not my OTP, but I love them as a couple. I really especially adore Luke. Sophie really makes great heroes, and Luke is just so understanding, so loving, so warm. He's such a great father to their child, and I just want all the happiness for Luke. But unfortunately, this book didn't include that much Luke in it, so I can't really say that this is going to be my favorite book. I mean, I think if they included more Luke in it, this would definitely have a higher rating. In fact, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars only because towards the end, Luke started showing up more, and I was like, thank you, you're saving the story, you're definitely making it more interesting for me. So the next book that I picked up is 25 Days Till Christmas by Poppy Alexander, and I believe this book came out either last month or this month. Now, this is a Christmas story, as you can tell from the title and also from the festive cover. I really didn't expect this novel to be what it was. I thought this was going to be a very plain novel about a Christmas story, and it's going to follow this one simple plot line of this widowed wife who is now a single parent who's trying to raise her son and try to celebrate Christmas, and she meets a guy and they fall in love. But there were so many things to this story that I really appreciated. Like, for example, our main character, who is named Kate. Kate is not doing so great. You know, she was a housewife. Her husband was in the army. They were financially well off, but then when her husband passed away, she had to like get a job herself, and she had to manage herself and raise her child alone. She's not doing that well financially right now. She's trying to keep her job as a Christmas elf at a Christmas tree farm where she sells Christmas trees for this very big company. And then meanwhile, the company is trying to get a lot of PR because they want to look like they're saints during the Christmas time. So they're raising money for this charity that is helping the people with mental disabilities. And it was a very deeper, darker novel than I expected. It's not actually really darker, but it was just a more deeper, well thought out novel. And it was just a lovely, enriching warm, cozy novel that like brought joy and brought like it was literally miracles in December of how the story ended and how everybody kind of like lived a better life off of it. So the next book that I picked up is What Like to Meet by Rachel Winters, and I believe this is Rachel's debut novel. Now, What Like to Meet is from Putnam Books, but it is also under Penguin Random House, so that's why the illustrations are so gorgeous and so pretty. I don't know why this wasn't signed as a Berkeley romance, because I figured that it would be closer to Berkeley romance since it does feature a romance. Now, this book tells a story of Evie, and Evie is an assistant in the film industry, and she wants to become an agent and she wants to grow her career. And the only way that she can grow her career is that if she is able to convince Ezra Chester, who is the film agency's biggest client and biggest screenwriter, to write a script for a romantic comedy. And this was where the things got kind of little bit weird. So the agreement is that Evie will help convince Ezra to write a film script by committing herself to a series of dates and mishaps to meet the perfect one. So for example, she goes into a cafe, she spills water and smoothies on people, on guys specifically, so that they can get their attention and they would have a nice meet cute. Or she would set herself up in dangerous situations because damsel in distress meet cutes. And there's always references to a lot of romantic comedies and a lot of romance novels and romance movies that everybody loved and enjoyed. I feel like the agreement part where she agrees to do all these outrageous things to convince him that true love is worthwhile and that real like love stories can happen based on movies seemed implausible. Like it didn't seem like it was a fair bet and agreement. So if you kind of overlook that weird agreement, you would enjoy this book. I really enjoyed this book because it was funny. The author, Rachel, does a great job at writing very like subtle humor and subtle jokes into it while also writing with a dramatic flair. You can also tell that she is from the UK because her humor is a little bit more raunchy and her humor is a little bit out there, and I appreciate that. So if you are new to that kind of humor and that kind of comedy, maybe this book might not be for you. There's also a love triangle in this book, and it's been a long time since I read a love triangle. So there's between Evie and Ezra, and then obviously a different character. Obviously, you're rooting for the one that you love the most. So the last book that I picked up is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover, and this book was sent to me from Thomas Allen and Sons here in Canada. And Colleen Hoover is an author that I really enjoy. Like, she writes very dramatic fiction novels that like bring you into the story, that gets you absorbed, that gets you invested into all the characters, and you want to know how they would end up being together and how would they survive. And this is a story of Morgan and Clara, and Morgan is the mother and Clara is her daughter, and it's their relationship. So what happens is that Morgan's husband Chris, I believe, they are in a relationship, they're young, they're naive, they're having fun, and suddenly Morgan falls pregnant. So 17 years later, Clara is born, and they are having this family dynamic relationship where Chris is holding them together. Like, Chris is like the piece that ties them together because Morgan and Clara don't really get along too well. They don't really have a good relationship. So if you guys can relate to that kind of story where you're not that close with your mother and you guys don't get along too well, maybe this book is for you. So this is a very dramatic fiction novel, to be honest. I'm gonna have to say that I'm gonna give this 2.5 out of 5 stars. And that's very rough. So I don't know when was the last time Colleen Hoover wrote a book, but I think it's been a very, very long time. And for some reason, I didn't enjoy the writing in this novel. I thought the first couple of chapters in this novel was written very poorly. I didn't like how it sounded so childish, even just because Morgan was 17 years old and it was like kind of a flashback. Like, I figured that like 17-year-olds don't think like that, and it read like a very bad young adult fiction novel. It felt like Colleen was just trying to dumb down the character so that we can be convinced that she's 17, but really, like, you don't have to do that. Like, just give us like your normal good writing. So the relationship is really weird because like Morgan has a little sister, and then Morgan's dating Chris. The little sister's dating this guy named Jonah, I think. I already sense that Morgan and Jonah are better off together, and her little sister Jenny is better off with Chris. And you already kind of know that something's gonna go down and something very dramatic is going to go down towards the middle of the book, and people are trying to see if they could stick together as a family. It's a very emotional read, but to be honest, I wasn't that invested into the characters. I wasn't invested into the drama. I thought the drama was very predictable, and I didn't really like it. Like, it just felt like it was too, not like it was too out there, but it was just something that I didn't care about. So that's why I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. But anyways, those are all the books that I read this week. And I hope you guys have better insight on some of these books that have been recently released this year in 2019. And hopefully you guys can pick up some that you didn't hear about and you want to try out. So go ahead, go forth, get reading. But until next time, I'll see you guys again. Bye.